Good morning. We are going to talk a little bit about some specific things in the Carillon Fantasia. First of all, I'm going to take my music and show it to you. I've added a dynamic marking right here. This is measure 8. And the dynamic marking that you're going to see right here is R-I-T, ritardando. So you should write R-I-T at the end of measure 8 in your music. And you'll also notice here that I have circled some dynamic markings. So in measure 9, right here, fortissimo, I've circled that. That's the beginning of measure 9. Flipping over to the second page, in measure 17, I've circled this P, the piano marking. Do that in your music. Measure 19, I've circled the SFZ, the sforzando marking at the beginning of measure 19. Down on the next line, measure 22, there's a crescendo. Right here, that pointy thing, crescendo, circle that. And right next to it, right after it, a fortissimo, I've circled that. Finally, on the last line, this is measure 25, there's a little tiny R-I-T. That's a ritardando, very important. You should write it in bigger letters. Circle that. Next measure, we're adding on this chord, the second to the last chord, a double F, that's a fortissimo. Write that in and circle it, F, F. And in the last measure, I've circled the SFV sforzando marking. The point of doing all that is you've been playing this song for a long time, and I want you to focus this week on making the dynamics happen. You've done a great job with the accents of the bonging of the bells. That sounds really, really good. So now what I want you to do is really focus on making those dynamics happen. Okay? So, for example, at measure 8, with that new ritardando, you're coming into it from measure 7. I want you to slow down there because the next thing is pow. Right? So if you do that ritardando, it gives you time to get down here, and it tells us that something big is happening next. Okay? In measure 17, that piano, so you've come out of this part, then it sort of echoes, so it's quieter. And then all of a sudden in measure 19, pow, etc., etc. Okay, and I know you understand the other markings, so you can just work on those this week. Another thing that we wanted to talk about was the rhythm at the top of page 2. So again, you've come out of this, let's see. Now you're here, this part. So again, the counting. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So I don't expect you to count and play at the same time because it's hard for even me to do. But the counting has to be right. So here's what I'm going to do. Instead of counting out loud, I'm just going to play from measure 13 through measure 19. So you can hear, maybe I'll try to tap my toe, so you can hear what that's going to sound like. So if your beat is, I can't tap my toe and do pedal at the same time, so I'm not going to do the pedal. So if the beat is 1, 2, 3, 4, if you've been going about that tempo, I think that's close to what you do. So measure 13 will be 1, 2. Etc., etc. So you have to, the rhythm can't just suddenly disappear at measure 13. Why? Because A, it's wrong, and B, you've been doing such a steady beat up to that point. And if you just devolve into no steady beat and no rhythm at all, it's going to sound really weird. So see what you can do to make your beat and your rhythm sound like it just sounded the way that I played it. And I wrote you a note about pedaling in the email, so you'll know what to do when you read that.